name is Matthew DeLoach. I worked on Apple Watch. It does that, and I'm calling from Disneyland.
Hi, my name's Florian Schura, and I'm the location manager on the commercial Nike Play New, and I'm calling in from Los Angeles, California.
Hola, mi nombre es Daniela Aguilera. Soy la jefa de locaciones del proyecto Extragam y estoy llamando desde Santiago de Chile.
3, 2, 1.
Good morning to our viewers and panelists for the 2021 LMGI Awards nominee panel for the Outstanding Locations in Commercials category. I'm Angus Ledgerwood, and it is my great pleasure to be moderating this panel today. Thank you all for joining me here today, and on behalf of the LMGI Board of Directors and the LMGI membership around the world, I'd like to congratulate all of you for your nomination this year. It was a very competitive field. As all of your commercials were shot during the global pandemic, I'd like to ask each of you, to start with, what you found to be the most challenging aspect of creating your individual commercial, and which location you were most pleased to see in the final cut.
I just want to say the most challenging thing for me was this was shot in July of 2020, and it was literally the first job that I came back to, and it was not a small job. It was like a really big job. I was kind of expecting to be on a smaller job coming back, but it just seemed to be this big job in Los Angeles. And I think Los Angeles was probably one of the first places in the world to just start filming again. And I was kind of in the center of Los Angeles filming this commercial. So that was definitely the most challenging part, just because like we were just learning how to go back to work, you know, with all the COVID protocols, which weren't necessarily fully in place yet. So we were just, you know, doing our best to do it. And probably the most challenging location would be we were shooting in the opening scene of the commercial. There's a woman who wakes up and it's like a drone shot, and then that drone goes, it actually starts in Shanghai, which I didn't have anything to do with, but then it goes into LA skyline, and then it goes right into someone's bedroom, and that was in a high-rise penthouse of the Circa apartments in Los Angeles. And I would say that was the most challenging, because we weren't just, you know, we were with other people, with a crew, and we were just trying to find places and limit our crew and stagger our crew up to, you know, the top penthouse of this building.
All right, thank you very much, Matthew. Florian, the same question to you.
We shot this in March of 2021, either side of the Easter weekend, 9 shoot days total, 8 in LA. And I would say in general, the challenge on this job and a job like this is just the level, the amount of locations involved, and trying to coordinate that, and the importance of having a team for that. You know, so often we're thought of as a department of one, especially in commercials. We're thought of as the Swiss Army knife that performs a multitude of functions. And I can't emphasize the importance of having a really strong supportive team behind you. That's really going to make or break your location department. And on a commercial like this, where locations are so essential, you know, like all these commercials are, you better have a great team behind you. I would say it's fine. There's quite a few locations that didn't make the commercials, but out of the locations that did make it, there's certain really simple locations that I like. There's a little BMX scene which we shot in a multi-story car park, which was actually underneath our base camp. So sometimes simple things like that can be super effective and can be some of my favorite things. You know, just the really the obvious thing that's right in front of you sometimes is the best solution to a problem. But I also some specific challenges. I would say we shot at a boxing ring, the first location in the opening shot in the final cut of the location, which we didn't realize was right next to a popular impromptu night market in Lincoln Heights in Los Angeles. So as we were trying to move in there in the afternoon, there was just an incredible amount of street vendors all suddenly turning up. So things like that obviously happen. Well, you can't ever take something for granted, you know. So in terms of logistics and so on, things like that, it's always important to expect the unexpected, I guess, in order to be loose on your feet and figure out how you're going to accommodate a crew of 150. Filming at Leo Carrillo Beach with drones and using 50-foot film reels, because the whole thing was shot on 16 and 35 mil. That's just like, again, they're just all sort of there's more, but you know, definitely those are some of the challenges we had to wade through for sure.
Daniela, I'd like to ask you the same question.
Con 200 extras y casi 200 personas en el equipo, por lo tanto toda la logística de aforo, de organización y de realización fue muy compleja y a la vez un gran desafío. Al igual que Florian, no hubiera sido nada sin mi grandioso equipo. Los chicos estuvieron constantemente apoyando y desenvolviéndose muy bien dentro de todo lo que significó las gestiones de las locaciones durante el proceso, ya que estaba todo cerrado. Había mucha gente trabajando de forma telemática, por lo tanto todos los ingresos de permiso, todas las gestiones fueron gestiones que se prolongaron, que tuvieron mayor tiempo de resoluciones, sobre todo en el corte de calles, y por un tema sanitario también, el posicionamiento de los animales en pleno centro de Santiago fue bien complejo. Pero dentro de todo fue un proyecto y creo que es el que más he disfrutado porque estuvo muy entretenido. La euforia de la gente al salir a las calles luego de este encierro junto al soundtrack de Celine Dion, creo que fue el toque realmente, o sea, lo elevo más. Nosotros, los chilenos, el equipo chileno lo disfrutó mucho, estuvo muy entretenido. El ánimo de trabajo del director de fotografía de Chamus y del director del proyecto Nick se transmitió para todo el equipo, estuvo fantástico. Creo que fueron 6 días de filmación arduos pero entretenidos.
Thank you very much, Daniela. During your prep scouting periods, what was your team structure? How many location scouts and team members did you have on board? And how many shoot days did it take to complete your commercial? Matthew, I'd like to start with yourself.
It was like just one of those jobs, you know, I'll never forget. So, and I'm just really grateful for all the people that kind of, you know, the team of people that put in all their hard work, and everyone was just, you know, glad to be back at work, you know, so.
Thank you very much for that, Matthew. And I think we can all agree that being back at work is quite a relief for all of us now. Florian, I'd like to, again, pass the question to yourself.
Thanks, Angus. Yeah, so I scouted approximately, I would say, 85% of the locations prior to starting filming. Typically, I tend to scout the jobs I manage, and as the process continued and as I brought in other location managers, scouting also continued. So I had kind of my co-pilot, really, Mike Dennehy, super able and capable location scout and manager as well in commercials. Work kind of based on my directives, you know, but also because I think it's also important to really let a scout do their work and have autonomy in order to be able to get the best out of them. But there were many things that kind of felt like obvious go-tos, I suppose, you know, like things that come right away. I don't know, there's certain location briefs that come to you right away. Like it's got to be this, it's got to be that. Like, you know, there was a scene where there's a kid at the top of the 10-meter high dive at night, and you know, I immediately thought of the Rose Bowl, and then there are some places in the Inland Empire. I think Redlands University has a high dive too, and there's some things closer to San Diego. But it's a really, really hard location to get, or at least get any choice of as well. There's not a ton of choices, so I knew that we had to start pursuing that, and that's one thing I said to Mike: just stay on these people. And I think from our initial contact that I made with the Rose Bowl, Mike made the initial contact with the Rose Bowl, to us filming there was around a month. You know, so the whole process took a long time just for something that seems relatively simple. Like, it just seems like a relatively simple location, like 10-meter high dive, you know. But the hoops you end up jumping through to get there can be pretty surprising, I suppose. So we had, going in, I guess we had most of our locations. I forgot how many there are in total, but there are so many. I mean, we were shooting 2 to 4 a day, and there are all these moments anyway. There are all these beats. But each beat needs its whole entire world, you know. No director wants to hear, oh, we'll shoot this beat over here, and then we turn around and do that beat over there, even though sometimes that is the best solution, and I love those solutions. But we went in with almost all our locations. Some of the celebrity talent was not locked, but by the time it was locked, then the next challenge became the celebrity and the team deciding on which activity they were going to do, because the whole spot is about people trying out new sports. I had to bring on an additional scout just to deal with the with the Rosalia location, you know, and he started, Travis Dino, he's a fantastic scout and manager, and he started scouting for that a couple of days before location, and we shot 8 days over the course of 2 weeks, either side of the Easter weekend. So he began that right as we started shooting, and then it's this constant nagging anxiety, because it's not like a TV show where it's still a ways away. You know, this is coming right up on you. So Travis did an amazing job of keep on presenting different types of locations. At one point, the artist was going to be roller skating around the arts district. Then it was, I mean, I don't know, I'm probably not at liberty to say all the different things that were on the table, but many different, we went through many different activities, at location-specific activities, in order to arrive at the artist finally doing the archery scene at King Gillette. And so it's, so while location scouting was around 80-90% complete by our first shoot day, there were definitely moving parts all the way right up until the last shoot day.
And that is a common thing. I think we all get through that anxiety if you don't have everything locked in before the first shoot day. Daniela, I'd like to ask the same question of yourself.
Este proyecto significó una selección en el equipo de personas que tuvieran conocimiento completo de la ciudad. Teníamos que saber proponer dentro de, más allá de las dificultades de la pandemia y del COVID, lugares donde nosotros debíamos posicionar a 200 extras por locación. Y eso significó no solo proponer lugares en cuanto a la estética del comercial, en cuanto a lo que quería la agencia y el director, sino que también poder pensar en todo lo que va tras la filmación. Y creo que logré conseguir un equipo espectacular. Espectacular. Los muchachos hicimos una separación de la búsqueda de locaciones por situación. Fueron 6 días de filmación, pero aproximadamente 2 semanas intensas de scouting. Y siempre contamos con una chica, con Paula en nuestra oficina, quien hace toda la gestión, oficina en su computador, iniciando las gestiones mientras nosotros vamos buscando las locaciones. Entonces hay una diagramación, una sincronía en el equipo, donde cada uno sabe lo que tiene que hacer, y va fluyendo y se va desenvolviendo todo súper bien. Lo más difícil para mí, en lo personal, considero que fue las adversidades de la pandemia versus a este gran proyecto que implicaba no solo un gran equipo humano, sino que también un gran despliegue de extras, y los protagónicos, obviamente. Y al igual que Matthew, considero que el equipo de arte fue fantástico. Nosotros tuvimos una puesta en escena, por lo tanto el bloqueo de las locaciones fue más extenso. En el centro de Santiago hubo que poner plantas, animales, toda una intervención de raíces. Por lo tanto, el montaje era el día anterior, filmábamos y luego venía un desmontaje brutal, o sea, enorme. Teníamos que tener esa disponibilidad por parte de cada calle, cada municipio, y también de cada entidad privada, como los edificios modernos, destruir, pero que fuera bello, destruir la ciudad, destruir con la invasión de la flora y fauna un entorno que fue invadido por la naturaleza. Y creo que no tuvimos el tiempo de darnos cuenta el tremendo trabajo que estábamos haciendo hasta que terminamos y dijimos, wow, esto fue fantástico, esto significó no dormir, pero valió totalmente la pena el esfuerzo y nada, está todo bien. Creo que las dificultades de la filmación siempre se vieron puntualmente expuestas por el COVID, porque por lo general acá en Chile las filmaciones... Las filmaciones y las solicitudes de los espacios y la disponibilidad de los espacios siempre están. Hoy la restricción fue, ¿cuántas personas son? Casi 400 personas. No, y entonces teníamos que tener no una opción, sino que por lo menos 20 opciones reales que nos pudiéramos ir distribuyendo en el sentido del plan de filmación. Partimos por acá en la mañana, arte monta, vamos a la otra locación, lo que implica una filmación, pero 400 personas moviéndose. Eso yo creo que fue lo difícil. Y lo fácil fue que gracias al COVID nos pudimos desplazar amigablemente dentro de la ciudad. No había tráfico, había poca gente en las calles, la calle era nuestra, entonces estaba todo bien.
I'd like to ask each of you, more of a career perspective, what has been your favorite part of being a location manager, your favorite part of the job, and in your experience, a moment that you've stood back and gone, you know, I've managed to pull this together, and please share your thoughts on that. Matthew?
Yeah, I just want to say, and it's interesting that you've asked that question right now, because both Florian and I'm sorry, I didn't get the other nominee's name. that just spoke, which I didn't really understand much Spanish, but I tried to pick up what I could. I just want to say that I love locations, like, and I really deeply respect people that do this job. It takes a certain person to do this. I've always been motivated by the relationships that I have with people and getting to know new people and being in situations, just like pivoting in moments where, you know, like this whole thing could just go down at any moment. And there's a lot of unknowns in the very beginning, especially when, you know, I'm scouting most of my jobs in the beginning. I'm usually not just jumping on as a location manager, and we're just kind of thrown into like the mix, and we have to just figure this out and build it from the beginning and make it happen. So I find it really interesting. It's like a puzzle, you know.
Florian, I pass it on to you to answer.
My favorite part is probably when I'm sitting in the van, or not so much anymore these days, but when I'm director scouting, ideally with the director, producer, designer, and if we can get them to come as well, the cinematographer, and being in that, figuring out what is possible in our world. You know, it's so satisfying going from location to location. You're presenting, because that's also where you have a lot of creative input as a location scout manager, is when you're working really closely with the director, especially in commercials, working incredibly closely with the director, and obviously also the production designer, in creating this canvas. And I find that process of bringing your heads together with designer, with director, with producer, and to figure out how this whole thing is going to work.
Wonderful. And Daniela, what is your favorite part of the process?
Primero tengo que decir que como mujer, lo que he dicho en manager, mujer en Chile, el hecho de que ya se me considere una persona apta para realizar un servicio de producción para el extranjero es la mejor parte de mi trabajo. Que confíen en mí, que sepan que puedo ser capaz de entregar todo lo que se me va a pedir y de estar al nivel de lo que se requiere. Siempre hay falencias y yo creo que cuando uno da un paso atrás y mira lo que está haciendo y se siente orgulloso, es cuando dices, lo hicimos. No podría hablar de forma individual en relación a un proyecto porque siempre el complemento es un equipo. Siento que acá en Chile también de forma muy particular están ocurriendo cambios muy grandes en la industria, donde el rol de la mujer está siendo cada vez más importante, donde se está tomando el peso de que una mujer no solamente puede ser la de la oficina, sino que puede montar una cámara, puede hacer peso y poner un farol en el set. Entonces ya estamos mirándonos de igual a igual. Lo recalco porque considero que es importante. Estamos en Sudamérica y en Sudamérica la industria está creciendo. Tenemos en Chile, que amo Chile, un país largo y angosto donde tenemos desierto, playas, bosques, glaciares, ríos, etcétera, etcétera. Es tan diverso que creo que la parte también que más me gusta de mi trabajo es que en lo posible llegue un proyecto donde me digan queremos desierto, río, playa, bosque, todo junto para recorrer Chile completo, sería fantástico. Sería lo mejor.
I'd like to thank all of you for joining us here today for this panel for the commercial category of the LMGI Awards 2021. I'd like to thank our audience for tuning in and listening about these great location managers' work. I encourage all our audience to visit the locationmanagers.org page and gather some more information about the awards and the LMGI. If you are not a member of the LMGI, we welcome you to come and join our ranks. And until next year, thank you very much. Congratulations on your nominations and have a lovely day.